There's plenty of viral videos online telling you that you don't need to cut down on your salt intake.
In this video, we're going to talk about the sodium myth.
You need to salt your food to taste to realize optimal health, and this includes even people with congestive heart failure.
You should not eat a low-salt diet. You should eat more salt.
And yet reputable guidelines such as the American Heart Association recommend no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium a day, with an optimal goal of no more than 1,500 milligrams a day. So why is there this controversy and who's right? Now, in particular, what's controversial is this sodium. And I want to preface this video by saying that sodium is essential for life. There is no arguing that it is needed to maintain hydration, conduct nerve impulses, and help with muscle contraction, among other things. At the end of the day, no sodium is no life. And in fact, there was this very jarring example of this given in one of the pro-salt videos.
Urging him to get what it needed. He was admitted to the hospital at age 3, and unfortunately after only 7 days on the hospital's low-salt diet, he suddenly died. The final paragraph of this paper says, a boy aged 3½ years with deficient adrenal cortical tissue manifesting various symptoms of adrenal insufficiency had a marked craving for salt.
Now, this is an example of a child who had a very rare genetic disorder affecting around 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 15,000 people worldwide. The disorder impairs production of one of your hormones that is important for the regulation of the salt in the body called aldosterone. And while it's an unfortunate incident that rapidly draws your attention as the viewer, this specific case report should not impair our accurate assessment of the evidence. Now, where is the controversy in the literature? Really, it all started with this 2014 paper that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine.
A 2014 article in the New England Journal of Medicine analyzed the mortality and cardiovascular event rates of 102,000 people assessed for urinary sodium and then followed them for 3.7 years. The article concluded that an estimated sodium intake between 3 grams and 6 grams per day was associated with a lower risk of death and cardiovascular events. But what's important is that the adverse effects to health increase much more rapidly when you are under this range rather than above it. As you go over 6 grams of sodium, about 15 grams of salt, the health risk does start to rise, but it rises much more gradually. Based on the data here, eating 6 times as much salt as is recommended by the US dietary guidelines would pose less of a risk to your health than actually following the guidelines.
And of course, we have world-leading expert chiropractor physician Dr. Eric Berg also weighing in on this very study.
The World Health Organizations and many other organizations have been recommending to keep your salt in the low range between 2.0 and 2.4 grams. That's 1 teaspoon per day. Well, it just so happens that falls within the risk factor of getting a heart attack. That is considered low sodium. And based on this study, which I'm going to put a link down below, the optimum range of sodium is between 4 and 5 grams. That's 4 to 5 teaspoons of salt.
Indeed, these provocative findings appear to challenge evidence on the role of salt reduction in the prevention of cardiovascular disease and call into question the World Health Organization's recommendation to reduce salt intake. So what's going on? Well, first and foremost, we need to know how levels of salt consumption were estimated in these patients. It involves the use of a single spot urine sample, in this instance a morning midstream sample, using the Kawasaki formula to by extension predict salt intake. And here on the screen I have the formula itself. And one of the aspects of the formula is that it required your predicted 24-hour urine creatinine, which is highlighted in green. Now, this value itself relies on several variables such as age, sex, weight, height, and muscle mass, and the problem is that each of these parameters themselves are correlated strongly with health outcomes, which leads to a significant concern for confounding. I talk more about confounding in my heart failure melatonin video, which you can check out somewhere up here. But the most reliable way to assess someone's salt intake is not to use a formula like this, but rather to collect their urine over a 24-hour period and to repeat this at least 3 times. And to date, the studies that have used this approach demonstrate a direct linear relationship between sodium and cardiovascular disease as well as mortality. For example, this 2014 paper in Circulation using a 24-hour collection demonstrate what seems to be an almost linear relationship between urinary sodium excretion and the hazard ratio for cardiovascular disease. And in fact, there was another paper that compared the Kawasaki formula with a 24-hour urine collection on the same patients, and I want to show you it right here on the screen. And what you will see is that when urine sodium is measured directly, you get this direct linear relationship, but when it's estimated using the Kawasaki formula, the J-shaped relationship is reproduced. This provides even more evidence that the J-shaped relationship, alluding to an ideal range between 4 to 6 milligrams, may in fact be nothing more than a measurement artifact. Other issues with this methodology that I won't go into too much detail include only measuring the salt levels at the very start of the study. Now, people were enrolled in this study between 2003 and 2013, and outcome events were all the way up to 2017, and the median follow-up was around 8 years. Now, do you really think people were having the same amount of salt during this time? Personally, I don't think so, because there were various global strategies to reduce salt intake present during this time. And to be completely honest, a non-linear relationship between salt intake and cardiovascular disease doesn't really make much sense at all. And here's why. We know from a fact, from high quality evidence, such as this systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, that higher amounts of salt intake are associated with higher levels of blood pressure, and vice versa. The mechanism for this is quite simple. Salt is osmotically active, meaning if you consume a lot of salt, it literally pulls water into your blood vessels and by extension increases your blood pressure. We also know that elevations in blood pressure have a direct linear relationship with cardiovascular disease. In fact, I've made a whole video on the importance of blood pressure reduction, which should be somewhere around here, but I digress. The only logical extension, if both of the preceding two statements is true, is that there should be a direct linear relationship between an elevation in salt and cardiovascular disease. The authors did try to provide a possible alternative mechanism by which low sodium intake could be driving disease processes, and the idea is that low levels of salt could activate your renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system excessively, and by extension sympathetic activity, which is harmful. Essentially, the argument being that low levels of salt trigger your body's fight or flight system. And while mechanistically this does make sense, the authors fail to account for the fact that such compensatory responses are only seen when there's a rapid decrease in salt intake, as opposed to the current public health recommendations, which is to reduce salt modestly over a few days until you reach your ideal goal. And playing the devil's advocate here, there's these medications called thiazide diuretics, which actually reduce levels of salt in the body, and by extension they activate your renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, and by extension the sympathetic system over the short term. But over the long term, they do not increase mortality. Quite the opposite. In randomized controlled trials, long-term treatment with thiazides for hypertension was superior in preventing cardiovascular disease. Of course, it's theoretically possible for our sodium levels to be too low. However, the body only needs a small amount of sodium intake to function properly, maybe 500 milligrams. That's a smidge, less than 1/4 of a teaspoon, and very few people come close to eating less than this. Obviously not medical advice, but hospitalization for low levels of sodium concentration is far more often an issue of too much water rather than electrolyte deficiency. And interestingly, there was also this RAAS diet for the treatment of high blood pressure that had individuals on extremely low levels of sodium, less than 230 milligrams of sodium per day, and they had a 5-year survival probability of 95.6%. So what does the totality of evidence actually show? Well, there was this interesting umbrella review of meta-analysis, which is very close to the top of the hierarchy of evidence. And it was published December last year, providing a clear answer. Low sodium intake was associated with a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, stroke, and all-cause mortality, and high sodium intake, the opposite. So don't buy the hype, minimize your consumption of salt and processed foods, and if you like the idea behind this video, you're gonna love this video on a similar topic where I talk about how you probably don't need electrolyte drinks and why they're probably causing more harm than good.